Welcome to the Fish North Georgia podcast, where we talk everything fishing here in North Georgia.
Make a cast over that brush pile and bring wolf packs of spotted bass up.
Georgia is blessed with so many of these electric-only lakes.
No, I didn't say that, Danny. Don't be
so,
speculating now.
All right, guys, welcome back to this episode of the Fish North Georgia mini cast. I'm here with Chris Gayton, and for those of you that remember, he did our podcast number 2.
Yep.
He is one of the original guys here. He's a local angler here in North Georgia area, a lot of electric-only lakes, but has some experience on the big lakes and all as well, doing the BFLs back during the day.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So I'm glad you come out here to help us with this, and I'm getting ready to pick your brain about something.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me. Let's go.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, so today's date's February 27th.
Yep.
Okay. On Facebook, on our page at Fish North Georgia, I put out a chart that I had found on another page. And on this chart, it talks about the times of the year, the water temperatures, and what these guys thought that, was the best baits at the time. We got a lot of feedback on it. And we thought we would just discuss some of this feedback and maybe get your opinions on this. So basically, they took the 4 seasons, and just for those listening, they gave, and you can go check it out for yourself if you want to. You can go back to our Facebook page, Fish North Georgia. You'll have to scroll down. By the time this comes out, you'll have to scroll back a little bit, but I'm sure you can find it. But they took the 4 seasons, and they give the water temp, the best lure options, and then some location techniques and notes. So they did that. So we're going to start off with winter because it's still, I would consider winter here, late February. So what they said was water temps are 30 to 60, and that's a pretty long range.
That's a big range.
That's a big range. Their best lure options are jigging spoons, crankbaits, and swim baits. Okay, and so some of the locations and techniques, they talk about fish deep and slow, look for deep structure, deep channels, ledges, leading to the channels, vertical jigging spoons over humps. All right. What's your take on that?
I can agree with a lot of it and disagree with some.
Okay. Well, I want to know what you disagree with.
So I would definitely start by adding a few baits to that.
Okay.
You got your underspin, your fish head spin.
Right.
Definitely a great option.
Are we still fishing that deep and slow, though, like they said?
Deep and slow.
All right.
Deep and slow. And another excellent option is Alabama rig.
Okay.
If I can fish it as deep or as shallow as I want to fish it, and catching a lot of fish on it.
Okay.
Did they have a jig on there?
Actually, they had jigging spoons, crankbaits, and swim baits, so no jigs.
No jigs.
So our friend Shane Dover will not like that.
No, but I would definitely add a jig to that as well.
Add a jig to that as well. Yeah, because I remember seeing a lot of the guys that are posting, especially the Lake Lanier guys, some of the big lake guys, they're throwing jigs in the ditches, stuff like that.
Jigs, shaky heads.
Yeah, in the ditches though. Yeah, those fish are targeted down. Now, do you think from a local reservoir, watershed lake, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 acres to Lanier, the techniques are the same if the water is deep?
Absolutely.
If those lakes are as deep as the big lakes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So what would you, I asked you, what you disagreed with, and of course you said you thought maybe add a few of those. But of the 3 that they gave, jigging spoons, crankbaits, and swim baits, which would you prefer?
Crankbaits.
Crankbaits.
That's what I like to throw.
Right.
Not that I would prefer any of those. That's the part that I disagree the most with. Is I want to find what those fish are. I want to find the bait.
Okay.
Whatever type of bait you have in that reservoir, whether it's threadfin, blueback, gizzard, spot tails, whatever the bait is that the fish are feeding on, and I want to mimic that bait, and I want to be near that bait. If it's crawfish, a jig, a red crankbait, something like that. If it's your threadfin, your A-rig, perfect.
Right.
Also the underspin, a bladeless, a blade bait, spinner bait. All those can be great options. It's mimicking.
Right.
the bait that they're feeding on.
These cats must be from up north because, water temperature of 30 degrees, it ought to be ice.
Yeah.
Them guys are in a shanty house with a hole dug in the ice and,
Yeah.
then you can jig them vertical jigging spoons or whatever, I guess.
I've caught a lot of fish on vertical spoons, though. I have. It's that temperature range is kind of hard, too, because you get it's total different.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying looking at this chart because, all right, so we just covered winter.
Yep.
Now, we'll go into spring and their water temps are 60 to 70, which, 10 degrees kind of really is a very narrow window that they're given for this chart.
Yeah, I mean, so spring, I would say, would be more, in my opinion, would be more of your 50 to 60.
Right.
30 to 40 winter, or 30 to 50 winter, and then 50 to 60 spring.
See, that would be a little more reasonable to me because, winter is like 30 to 60. That's a big old gap. But spring, you only get 10 degrees. So, regardless, here's their best lure options for water temps of 60 to 70 degrees. Plastics, I guess they're talking about worms, I guess. Lizards, crawfish, lipless crankbaits, buzz baits. Now, their locations, this is what they say. Use lizards, craws, and other creature baits during the spawn. Hit the shorelines with the cranks and the buzz baits. Use cranks during the pre-spawn on structure near spawning flats.
So, with that temperature range and the water,
if it's 60 to 70, them just bedding fish pretty much. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Or late bedding, maybe a little post spawn by that time?
Yeah, you get a little post,
right.
and spawning all at the same time. So a lot of that for me would be sight fishing. I love to sight fish. But also you got your prop baits, your buzz baits. I'll agree with that 100%. I love to throw a buzz bait that time of year. Also like a Smithwick stick, double prop bait. I'll throw a square bill. If the wind's blowing, I'll throw a chatterbait, a spinner bait. Also a jerk bait. Never count out a jerk bait that time of year. Something that's going to get down there. And if you are throwing it across a spawning flat and you could, get that jerk bait down there on top of them and pause it at the right moment where you're in there.
Just irritate them just enough.
Protection area.
That's about right. I would think, though, that, again, like you said, spring water temps 50 to 60 would be a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
And what we see around here.
Absolutely. And I would throw all of those same baits in that 50 to 60.
Because let's see, right now it's into February and you 50 degrees on the last lake that you just fished at. So, okay. So anyway, now we're going to get into summer. Now, their idea of summer is 70 to 80 plus. So again, even though it's 10 degrees, it's really a wide range there. You can get on up to almost 90, high 80s, mid 80s in some places.
Yeah, but I will give them that. Once you get into that post-spawn and you get into that 70-degree water temperature and on up, that's going to be pretty much.
Gotcha. Their best lure options are topwater plugs, frogs, crankbaits, plastics, worms, minnows. I assume that minnows would be the live bait, so we'll disregard that. But locations, techniques, and notes. Topwater should produce morning and evenings. Use crankbaits around points from the bank and near creek channels. Carolina rigged plastics on deep ledges and humps.
Yeah, I can agree with some of that. I'll also, again, throw a lot of the other stuff that we talked about, the jerk baits, your underspins, jig. 3/4 ounce jig, something that I'm going to be fishing deeper water again at this point. Those fish can go from a schooling on top water to 40 feet of water in a matter of seconds.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that is those fish will go from, right up here on the surface feeding to 40 feet and lay on the bottom in literally less than a minute.
It's interesting because you'll see. I think summertime, you'll see people be right on the banks, and you'll see a couple boats that are way out in the middle. So you get a big variety of.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's always going to be fish shallow, but I think those big fish have got to be, and you can catch a big fish from time to time.
Oh yeah.
feeding up and all that. But I think deep water in the summertime is where you're really gonna get the big girls.
Yep, that's it. Summertime, you're gonna the deep water, your ditches. Again, I'll fall back to the ditches just like the wintertime fish.
Mm-hmm.
They'll relate to the same things a lot of times in the summer and the winter.
Yes.
And number one key is finding those bait balls, schools of shad. If you can get around those schools of shad, you're going to greatly increase your chance
Yeah, absolutely.
catching them.
I can agree with that. All right, let's go to fall.
Yep.
Back to water temps of 50 to 70. So basically, spring and fall to them are the same thing, except in the spring, the water's, rising, fall, we're going down. So best lure options: spinner baits, jerk baits, jigs. Finally, they come up with the jigs. Texas rig plastics. Now, I don't know. Is it a Yankee thing to call them plastics? Because we don't do that down here in the South.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody that calls them plastics?
Nah.
They got to be a Yankee that put this thing out. And if we have some Yankee listeners, I apologize. We call it Coke, not pop.
Yeah.
I just call. I don't know. I just call them worms. I don't call them plastics anymore. So, anyway, locations, techniques. Bass on a feeding binge before the winter. That I agree with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Target known shad areas in shallows and near shoreline. Look for vegetation where creeks empty into the lakes, back of creeks. So spinner baits, jerk baits, jigs, Texas rigged plastics in the back of these creeks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm one of my favorite things to throw in the fall is a fluke. A fluke.
In the fall. Now,
Yep.
You don't throw it in the spring,
Yeah, I'll throw it in the spring as well.
Okay.
I lean more towards a trick worm in the spring.
And why is that?
Just because the bass are getting ready to go into that spawning mode, and it's just more of a subtle presentation. In the fall, they're feeding heavily on shad.
Okay.
Hence the
fluke.
The fluke.
Hey, that makes perfect sense. So you like throwing a fluke in the fall. What else?
Fluke, jig, they named that. Spinner bait if you get some wind. Chatterbait as well. Top water, of course, if I can throw top water and catch them.
Then let me ask you a quick question about your spinner bait since you brought that up.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people think spinner bait, throw it, reel it back where they can see it. A lot of people are taught this on farm ponds. They don't fish them deep. Now, do you basically say, okay, if I see bait ball at 15 foot deep and I'm going to throw a spinner bait for whatever reason, are you counting it down to 15 foot?
Absolutely.
So you're throwing that in relation to the bait that you're finding?
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to disrupt or fish so if I've got a big ball of shad, fish the outside edges of that shad or disrupt those shad. And when you pull that spinner bait through them and they scatter, and there's a fish that keys a fish that's sitting under them, when they
See that chaos or whatever.
Yeah, see the chaos, they come up to feed, and the only thing left is your spinner bait.
That's a good point.
That's the only thing I'm trying to do is mimic that ball of bait.
Okay, so we're gonna go through this list again. I'm just gonna kind of like in rocket fire.
Yep.
First time through, I want you to tell me your favorite bait particular.
Okay.
So we're gonna go winter,
A-rig,
spring,
spinner bait,
summer, top
water,
fall,
fluke.
Okay, we're gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna say structure, or what you're looking for on that. So
All right.
winter,
Ledge,
okay, spring,
flat, spawning flat.
summer,
That's a hard one. Ditch,
okay, a ditch. All right, fall,
creek,
okay. Favorite time of year to fish,
spring,
best chance to catch a big fish,
winter.
Now, see, that's funny you say that because you always see these memes on Facebook about guys. They're always making fun of the guys that come out and, late spring to early fall, you'll see a lot of guys coming. That's fishing time.
Yep.
But the reality is, if you want to catch a trophy fish, you need to be out there in the November, December, January, February months.
Man, I'm telling you, those fish have fed up. They're on their wintertime pattern. They're not exerting a lot of that energy. They're not burning a lot of that. They're getting full of eggs. It's just that's the time of
everything
year.
is coming up to do that. So, okay, guys. So basically, we have covered every bit of this, and again, Go to Fish North Georgia. Look at this list and decide for yourself if what you think they've put down is correct. Do you fish it like that? Please leave us some comments, in the comment section, and just let us know. And maybe you don't agree with something that Chris does, and let us know. Chris is a great guy. He knows what he's doing. But I think what you provided in this area, at least, is really good because, again, I think Yankees put this thing out. So, again, Chris, I appreciate you spending some time with us, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast. If y'all have any topics or guests you'd like to see in the future, leave it in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, click that bell so that you'll be notified of any future videos. And don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fish North Georgia. And we look forward to seeing you soon.